We're going to talk. We're doing this now. I think this is so much fun. We're going to take a viewer's site. They submit their sites to us, and Susie's going to tear it apart, tear it limb from limb, and then rebuild it better than ever before. Now, this is kind of fun because I've been looking at the site trying to figure out what Susie's going to say.
Yeah, we were just having a little back and forth about what is wrong with this site because so much is right with this site.
I like it. It's the Personal Computer Museum. It's in Brantford, pcmuseum.ca. And it's, you know, I was saying I like the graphic, I like the background, I think the color choices are good, the navigation looks pretty good.
Yeah.
What could Susie possibly find wrong with this site?
Well, I agree with you on all those things that are good. You know, the really clear navigation and structure, and a cool little computer
That's fun.
board in the background. Yep. And I love, of course, always a site that brands itself well.
It's pretty clear what it's about.
Yeah. So when this site got submitted, I looked at it and I thought, well, I mean,
what
really,
am I gonna say?
they're doing a really good job. But one area I think maybe they could do a little better on is text.
You know what? It's funny. I said the same thing. It seems like kind of text heavy on that front page.
Well, yeah, it is a little text heavy, and some of that is caused by all the things that are happening with the text. Some of it's bold, some of it's underlined, there's just asterisks all over the place, the red text. Your eye isn't really sure
where to go,
what to look at.
Oh, that's a really good point. You want to kind of draw people's eyes, just like with a good painting or photograph, draw people's eyes through it, right? Have a natural flow.
When you looked at this site, the very first thing you noticed was this little element.
That was kind of a downer. I mean, I'm sure Jim's a great guy, but do you want to start with that?
It's the biggest thing right here on the front, and there's no link or much of a description.
We don't even know who he is,
So right away, I would say let's get something out there that makes it really clear what the first element is, and
maybe a little picture of
your eye.
You could have somewhere a little picture of Jim and the RIP, and then maybe an explanation of who he is, or a link that goes to something.
I'm not saying it doesn't belong there.
I understand. Yeah.
So
nowadays, people design sites in a much cleaner way than they used to. They really do try to simplify, make it bold, bigger letters, bigger buttons, cleaner design. That's kind of the trend right now, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is maybe a little bit old school, but I think that really suits the PC Museum.
That's true.
They're all about the history of computing.
That's true.
So one thing I will say though is, and then there's a number of pages on the site that do this. There's text that goes all the way across the screen here.
That's not good, is it?
It's hard to read. It's hard for most of us to read, and it gets worse when you go in and you look at one of these pages where it's all like this.
And this is a fixed width page. It doesn't get any. Okay.
Yeah. So you can't really move that around. So your eye has to travel all the way across and then come all the way back.
There's a natural length that's comfortable, and any more than that's too much. What is that? About 65, 75?
About 2/3 of what you see here is a little more comfortable to read. So columns are always a good thing to do.
2 columns here would have solved it.
Plus, visually, it's appealing to look at. Take, for example, this page here, where they are using a column layout. It's about 2/3, and they've got this nice picture here. It's just a little easier to read.
Right.
So there's that. And of course, one of the things that they consider is adding a bigger margin. On this page, you get a nice big margin, and it adds to that feeling of more readability and easier to read. They could even put a little more air in here and just make it even more readable.
And you're a young person, so I'm not going to say that you probably wouldn't notice this, but I know I am an older person, and people over 40, sometimes a bigger font's not a bad thing to do.
It's not
It makes it easier for us to read it, right?
Although if you don't want to go bigger, one thing you could look at is adding some leading, and that's the space between each of the lines. And that would also, if you added a little bit of leading in here, even if you had it all the way across the screen, it would get a little bit easier to read.
Yeah. How about things like drop caps and like little, those would be okay?
They're great. You do still have to do those, with little code workarounds and graphics, so they're harder to code, but they also would give you a better appearance and more readability.
More legibility, yeah.
Then we have a page here with a lot of centered text.
I don't like centered text.
No, it's bad.
Yeah.
And here's why. Again, your eye bounces around all over on the edges. It's hard to read.
I don't like right justified either, where it's all squared up.
Yeah.
Left justified is what you want, right?
You want it aligned on the left, and justification, where the right margin is a solid line, you want to avoid that too, because on the web it just doesn't work very well.
It doesn't work, and you get weird spacing and stuff. It doesn't do a good job.
And then finally here, they're doing the right thing. You'll be happy with their linking.
I can really see it.
It's got traditional color, and it stands out, and that's great. And it's underlined. Also an uncommon choice these days, but really it's easy on the user.
You know, it's funny, I've seen aesthetic people say underlining is ugly. In fact,
it is.
I often turn off underlining in my browser, but let that be my choice, right? That's okay, yeah.
Well, and if you're gonna turn it off, then at least do what they've done here and make a really obvious color. distinction.
I
or
like to
stick with
use,
a
I know
traditional color.
people say, well, but I have a color palette and I want to use a color palette, but I like to use the standard colors for, blue for the links, red for the follow or the hover, and purple for the follow links. I like that.
It's
everybody
very
knows
safe.
you know what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but they do have some underlined text here.
Right.
And as always, I would say,
That's
if you're going to
confusing.
underline your links, don't underline anything else.
Yeah.
So I have one little tip here. This is a site that I came across a while back that I use a lot for figuring out the text that I want to use. And this is kind of a 3-column layout here. It shows you the safe fonts. These are the ones that are installed on both Macs and PCs. You can pick the one that you're interested in using. Set a font size. So let's jump it up a little bit. Change the leading. That's what I was talking about with leading.
This is great. And all of this is in the CSS. Right. You could easily.
And down here it shows you.
Isn't that nice?
A nice updated. And you can compare.
How much easier is that to read?
Well,
look at that.
It's quite a bit
so
easier.
much easier.
And let's do what you wanted, and let's jump up the size a little bit more.
Yeah, because I'm blind.
Even better.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now
so this is
I'm
a great
happy.
tool.
And never use Comic Sans. Never, never, ever, ever, never, ever. Right? Right. Susie Gardner is the creative director at hopstudios.com, our web workshop leader. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Good job. And go to the Personal Computer Museum, pcmuseum.ca. What a
really
neat
cool.
site. Yeah, it really is really cool. Hey, we'll be back with a final word right after this. Stay right here.